Good afternoon, Sean here, Mountains Garage. I figured this week I'd start my Friday update on Thursday and try to get it out on time. But then again, I missed last Friday, so whatever. In the past few months, I've been pretty good about taking little video clips during the week. This week, that didn't happen either. I don't even know where the week went. But the last time I updated you, I promised I was going to do some cleaning. And I have. It's not perfect yet, but we're getting there. The goal is to get the 71 Nova off this lift and underneath the 72 Nova temporarily. Actually, I'll be able to push it back, open the doors, and work on the interior, which I need to do. Before I do that, there were some things I needed to finish while it was on the lift. I mean, I can put it back on the lift, but the calipers were leaking at the hose connection. Over time, it would drip once a month. I changed the hoses first. I changed the bolts, the washers. It was a pair of reman calipers that I had put on, and none of the listed things fixed it, so now I've put another set of calipers on it. It's kind of irksome that one caliper is identical to what I took off, and the other one has a metric bleeder screw, and I mean, it's the same caliper pretty much. The pads didn't fit as good, so we'll see. They're lifetime warranty, so I guess if it rattles or anything, I'll just send it back. But the primary reason, or the result I'm hoping for, is that it doesn't drip fluid anymore. So sometimes it's the simple things that you waste a lot of time on. So I have successfully swapped them over, and the clutch linkage return spring, I made a bracket on the scatter shield because with the extra long tube stainless headers that are in there, none of the factory return spring arrangement stuff, it has a long rod that hooks to the frame and then a short spring, none of that would work. So I had made a bracket and it would pull the clutch pedal back all but that much, which means the throw-up bearing could ride on the fingers of the clutch. That would just bug me that it doesn't snap all the way back. I like to feel my free pedal all the time. Mentally, I probably check it 10 times a minute. I don't know, something wrong with me, but anyway, I'm used to feeling it. And I had to extend the bracket 2.5 inches. I just took a guess. I figured I'd just take all the space I possibly could. And it works now, so that's good. And then I've been wrestling with the inner fenders. I took those out the summer of 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And they've been out ever since. They're in really nice shape. They're original to the car. So I have all new hardware and picking through it, putting that back together, and whatever hardware is left over, the 72 Nova gets. So let me show you around what's been going on. I currently have the 71 Nova halfway up in the air, and there's a few things underneath it. However, the bay is open. It was full of junk and stuff, which has all been taken care of. So this bay is actually functional at the moment. There's still a few too many transmission cores. I actually brought another one home the other night. Had to stuff a few over there by the Model A, but I'm working through it. But I wanted to get this car off the lift this week and move it under the 72. Again, where I can work in the interior and basically store it for at least a month or so. But the interior is going to take a while. I need to be able to open the doors, and that's one drawback of having lifts, is you just don't have an open bay to swing the doors open. So, can't have everything. So everything in this bay, except for the tote, is on wheels, so I can, back that out. The gold car, bronze, whatever. Let's go with bronze. Back that out, roll the cabin stuff out of the way, and then drive it in here. Free up the bay, stash everything else around it. So it looks worse than it really is. At this point, if you saw it before, this bay was lost. Excuse the flashlight, but this is my extended bracket. I had to stretch the spring way over to there. The bracket actually bolts to these two bolts in the bell housing. But now, it works perfect. The first set of replacement hoses didn't have the bracket or this ferrule around it where you'd bolt it to the side of the stock control arm. And of course the aftermarket control arms don't have that feature. This set of hoses does, so when it's on the ground and the control arm goes up and I think I still have room, I can potentially use some of these holes and make a bracket. Or it'll swing in the breeze. It'll be fine either way, but this is typical of the inconsistencies in aftermarket parts. They all claim to fit the car, but they're not like original. And I actually never had the original hoses to this car because it had braided steel lines on the front that were junk. So it's been an issue since the day it showed up. The inner fender is back in. Like I said, I had to fight it in a little bit. I'm glad it's not aftermarket because that might have been worse or it might have been better. Most of the car comes together on the front of the inner fender, grill support, fender, battery tray. So lots of things to line up, but it's just sheet metal. I've hauled in 4 loads of 3/4 crushed stone last week and 1 load this week. Probably need 4 more if I'm going to cover the whole thing. I didn't intend to cover the whole thing, but it makes such a nice surface compared to the dirt. I'll probably keep going. Thinking about building a lean-to. Starting on this side, I'm going to engineer how I'm going to put the wood up on top, but if you go online, there's lots of ideas. So I could, store a project under here and maybe a project on the other side. All this stuff here is going away from this area anyway. But some days I get the lawn chair out and I stare at the openness and decide the best way to utilize it. The utilization of my bench changes by the hour. Currently, I've spread out my Nova body hardware, new and good used, picking through enough stuff to attach the inner fenders. Let's talk transmission stuff for a minute. I got a deal, and I'm not really sure it's a deal, on some round back drums, but they come naked just like this. They do have the high snap ring, so I can probably get 6 clutches if I want to. Some of them, I have one I just did that I boxed up just to have it ready to go, and the snap ring was probably down here, so even after machining the aluminum piston to 600 thousandths, I could only get 5 clutches in it. So by the time I buy these were like $80 a piece. It's essentially, another $100 to buy everything just to put the sprag on. You need the race, snap ring, retainer ring, everything else. So really no bargain, but in a weak moment, I bought them. So I have some Turbo 400 sprag races, so I ran out of sprags, and currently the price is up on them. So if you wait a few weeks, it may come back down, it may not. So I don't have an urgent need to use these 3 drums, but I'll put them on the shelf, and eventually they'll get used like the rest. I recently stocked up on pump O-rings and pump gaskets. I just hate breaking a kit open every time you need just a random gasket. But the washers that go on the pump bolts are seldom for sale individually, and if they are, they'd probably cost as much as a gasket set. When I have the stock washers, I use an 1.25" flange head bolt. And I'm still looking for a good solution for the aftermarket bell housings, so in McMaster Car online, I bought these washers and installed on my normal 1.25" bolt. The bolt was too short, so I bought some 1.5" bolts. And the washer, actually, you have to thread it down in place. It's, definitely a step above the factory one. I haven't tried them yet, but I don't see why that won't work just fine. And they're relatively inexpensive, like $7 for a bag of 100. So potentially a good solution. I'll let you know how it works out. 2 weeks ago, I showed you the GM only pump puller that I bought after 40 years of not having any type of pump puller. Now I have two because I saw this universal one for sale, also mega cheap. And same principle, grabs under the splines and pushes on the input shaft. I'll give this one a try too. I have used the GM one once already, and it's as easy as reaching for a screwdriver. Maybe more so, I don't know. Back on the 71 Nova this morning, I had a small list of things I needed to accomplish. First was bleed the brakes. When I ran all new lines last fall, I had plugged at the master, changed all my lines, had never seized the bleeder screws, left them open a quarter turn, had just reattached the whole front system to the master. When a delivery driver showed up, I had to go out and sign the paper and grab the parts. Less than a minute. I came back, I had fluid coming out of both sides. Today, well actually late yesterday and today, I couldn't get anything to come out. So I got my sucking device out and was able to get the flow started, but was still underwhelmed at the ineffectiveness of gravity bleeding today on the same vehicle that it was literally overflowing 8 months ago. So you never know. You never can tell. Many times, before I had this, I would pump up the brakes and use a brake pedal depressing device if nothing else worked. But if you see me pumping brakes to bleed them, I feel like a failure because most of the time you don't need to. But whatever. As long as you get the air out, that's really all that matters. I had mounted the line lock expecting to use one of the bolts for the inner fenders to hold it and then drill another one. That worked out perfect. When I threaded the bolt up through the inner fender this morning on the driver's side, it went right through the bracket. Then I had to drill the other one, which was kind of tight around the master, but I got that done, so all I need to do is wire the line lock and that'll work. On this side, I was hoping my heater hoses were the right length. This car was an AC car, but somebody's put this conversion kit and moved the lines over at least out of the way, so should I ever put a big block in it, there's plenty of room, because otherwise they go in over here and there's no room. So even in this case with the tall valve covers, it wouldn't clear. So this bracket is the factory bracket, bolts to a hole in the inner fender. Before I put the battery in, I know I had purchased some 194 LED bulbs that I wanted to put in the parking lights, and the marker light wiring goes up through the inner fender, so that all kind of happens at once behind the battery. I searched for probably 20 minutes to half an hour when I decided to look that maybe, I was thinking ahead, and I put them with the bulbs, knowing I wouldn't be able to find them when I went to look for them 6 months from then. Sure enough, in the plastic shoebox it says bulbs were my bag of 194 LEDs. So I'll throw those in, throw the battery in, and we're almost ready to run. Same story, I had bought 5 gallons of 93 octane back when there was a gas shortage, like in the spring, and I felt like a loser with my can. People thought I was hoarding, probably. I just wanted 5 gallons of gas to put in this. And I also bought some Stay-Bill for the fuel, because it's going to sit around. And I wanted to put the 5 gallons in, and while I'm running it, suck it up through. It's a 4-corner idle carburetor, so it'll be flowing out of the back too, so it'll all get refreshed if I run it for a few minutes. So that was the plan. I knew where the 5-gallon gas can was, but I spent in the garage here looking for another, 15, 20 minutes for the Stay-Bill. I put it next to the gas can. So 95% of the time I can put my hands on things. It's that 5% that slows you down. Under the master cylinder, I painstakingly recreated the factory circles and everything. I wish I'd just kind of done my own thing, because I'm not a fan of the look, and it's kind of tight over here, and the less brake line would be better, but that's what the factory did, and I duplicated it other than having to run over to the line lock and back. That's my wire, and I got to run inside, but whatever. It's a factory Nova. As Novas go, this one's kind of rare. Air-conditioned, power steering, and power brakes. Typically they had, power steering, manual brakes, or vice versa. They had odd combinations of options, but occasionally, and I haven't driven it with the small block other than around the yard. I won't lie, and the whole time working on it, I feel like I should have gone ahead and LS swapped it. But hey, that's just my feelings today. As we know, they change like the wind sometimes when it comes to engine choices and transmission choices. Rear ends, it's 9-inch Ford, so at least I can, stand my ground on that one. I have a new washer pump setup. I wanted to install that and refurbish the wiper motor a little bit, so I have all that stuff, and I can put the cowl on and all that stuff. So all things that need to happen this winter, but today I need to get this thing running, get it off the list, and stop jarring at the camera. I've mentioned before that I only ever wanted a beater, and this is probably nicer than I want it to be. I'm going around like changing out these rusty bolts. I haven't done it yet because I have a box of brand new hardware, and then I'll clear coat them so they stay new looking. The inner fender bolts underneath, I painted all the heads black so they didn't stand out or rust. A ridiculous amount of detail that, most of me didn't want, but hey, I don't know why I'm crying, because I'm the one doing the work. But, whatever. Alright, we got marker lights, parking lights, decades of working on big trucks, every connection, get some of that. This is a Blem battery my buddy sent me from the auto parts store. At least it's plain all the way around. There's no decals on it. There is a decal, but it's hidden over here. Not technically the correct orientation, but I wanted positive over here. I don't like it near the fender. And the cables and stuff I made up myself. I mean, at least it doesn't jump out as being wrong. I recently saw a Hemi Plymouth Superbird towed into a car show because they didn't want to drive it. And they popped the hood. It was a giant Walmart Everstart battery. Looked completely out of place. Beautiful car, but whatever. Well, it still runs, but it's stuck right here. Front brakes are locked up for some reason. I had an idea the line lock's probably gone bad. Just consider them. I think we even hooked it up. Yep, my diagnosis was correct. Before I cracked the line, I put a block of wood about a foot behind the tire. I just broke the line at the back of the line lock, and the car rolled away. So, brand new line lock, never even been plugged in. Junk. Well, the bay's empty, which was today's goal. Everything fit pretty good over here. I can still get around the car without scratching it. I brought it home a year ago last weekend, and when I originally stuffed it in this bay, there was so much other stuff that I had to shimmy by it all the time, which led me to put it on the lift and started working on it. So I've got it this far. Fixed that one mechanical issue with the line lock. I actually saved somewhere the factory line. I could just eliminate it, but I got to reevaluate whether I even need it or want it. So this car, yes. This car, nah, I don't know. And then work on the interior, starting with the headliner. The reason why the windshield's still out in the back window, I assume it's easier to do the headliner that way. Never done one. I have one. We'll see. It's pretty comfortable bench seat, even with the vertical gate shifter. Well, like they used to say on Hee Haw, don't that just slop your dripper. Brand new line lock, junk. I had the passing thought when it wouldn't gravity bleed that something, and I didn't suspect that at first, maybe my brake hoses were collapsed already or there's something wrong with the calipers. But that explains it. So now I'll either change it or do away with it, I'm not sure. So thanks for watching. It's been a rambling update, more Nova stuff than update. It's now Friday afternoon, so right on time, I'm going to post this one. Write it down. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Catch you in a few days.